thank you all for joining us tonight at this very special event titled Creation and Human History According to Sacred Scriptures. My name's Beverly, and I'm a volunteer for the Intercultural Centre, and they're the organisers of this evening's event. So just to give you a little bit of context at the beginning about the organisation, who we are. So the Intercultural Centre, alongside its umbrella organisation, the International Organisation to Preserve Human Rights, are both run by a group of volunteers throughout the UK, Europe, and in the US. The primary mission is to help promote educational and intercultural activities across religious and cultural boundaries in which human rights values play an important role. In recent months, we've helped create dialogue around countering extremism, both within the UK and European parliaments, and also helped influence policies which help cultural integration. So this particular event tonight is part of a series called Science and Spirituality. In previous years, we've welcomed some great minds to share from their own personal journeys, from the likes of Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, Dr. Penny Sartori, Dr. Pim van Lommel, and many more. And tonight is no exception, as we welcome back Jay Lakhani and Dr. Azmayesh. So a reminder of the agenda for this evening and how it's going to go. The event is an hour and a half long, and we're going to start with a presentation from Jay Lakhani, and then follow with a presentation from Dr. Seyed Azmayesh. And then after that, we have plenty of time for questions and answers. So it's meant to be an open discussion. And I just mentioned that now to remind you that when you're listening to the presentations, just keep in mind any questions that you have, that helps jot them down, because it always comes to the question and answer and you tend to forget. So just bear that in mind, the questions you want to ask. So without further ado, I will thrilled to introduce our first speaker of the evening, Jay Lakhani. So Jay Lakhani studied quantum mechanics under Sir Roger Penrose and is the first Hindu tutor at Eton College. He's explored in his TED Talks entitled Challenging the Paradigm of Materialism and Spiritual Humanism the cutting-edge discoveries of science which point to a reality that can best be described as spiritual rather than material in nature. So I'm now very pleased to hand over to Mr. Lakhani.
Good evening, friends. Before I start, I think it's very important that I acknowledge the hard work and effort that we see that has resulted in this particular event. And for that, I think we need a special applause for Medha. You see, my contribution is just going to be wave my arms and do a bit of dancing here, but apart from this, his hard work, everybody's here today. Now let me start my journey. You see, I'll just very quickly, in a very layman's term, tell you the depth of physics, depth of teaching of science. What is science all about? How did it start? Initially, what happened is that the ancient man was trying to make sense of the world around him. He saw certain material and it had certain qualities. The water, it flows. The wood, it burns. The wind, it blows. So the ancient man was trying to make sense of the world that he lived in by looking at the material world around it and certain attributes it possesses. This is how science progressed. Initially, the world is made of 5 elements, earth, wire, fire, water, and so on. And we have grown out of it. We have become much more sophisticated, and we get a very good, very refined grasp of reality. What is the nature of reality? We get a very good grasp of it. Things were going hunky-dory until 1920s. We started to reduce, say, okay, the building blocks of the universe, what are they? Oh, they have little atoms, and the atoms are made of protons and electrons whizzing around. Oh, we are so clever. Things were going very well. But then, in 1920s, we had a calamity in physics. And that calamity has not been addressed even up to now, nearly 100 years. So what is this calamity? This is what happened. While they were trying to look at the nitty-gritty of reality, the fabric of reality, what is the building block of this creation? When they were trying to look at it, suddenly they discovered something that blew their fuses away. Let me tell you what particular discovery is. That discovery is called the quantum. And again, straight away people think, well, some weird stuff coming here. In fact, it can be presented in very layman's terms. It's not that dramatic. I'll tell you what they've discovered. When they were looking at the building block of universe, with the very small, they said, we find that when we try and observe the very minute particles, our process of observation seems to disturb it. So we get a kind of fuzzy view of what the reality is all about. This is how it started. But in no time, the fathers of quantum discovered that they had really hit upon something so dramatic that it literally blew their fuses off. There are 4 fathers to quantum mechanics, 4 fathers. Now you can imagine that if you got any child with 4 fathers, the child is going to be weird. And this is no exception. The 4 fathers are, you may have heard the names, but a very famous physicist, Niels Bohr, a Danish physicist, Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger, and Uncle Einstein. So all of these 4 kind of, in a way, gave birth to this phenomena called the quantum. And they said, now, in order for us to really get a deeper grasp of reality, really refined grasp of reality, let us create a lovely mathematical jumble that can give us tremendous handle on how to operate this world. And they were very successful, especially Werner Heisenberg, very successful. So they developed the mathematical tools required to deal with this very minute kind of constituents of the universe. Very minute. And that particular phenomena is successful to the 9th decimal point. It is more successful than any other physical law. So the quantum phenomena, the mathematics is triple A. It gives us, if you like, everything that you have now, all the gizmos that you're playing with, the social media, all these are really thanks to the quantum phenomena. Everything, including the DNA. Why does it sit like that? The foundation of the whole of this creation is quantum. This is Mr. Lakhani, but so far just it's a bit fuzzy. So what is the big thing about this quantum? Let me just again present in a very layman's term what is so unique about the quantum. Why it's holding the whole universe together. For example, we've studied, basic, very simple, this thing called proton with a positive charge and this little electron with negative charge and they go whizzing around. A simple question arises. Positive attracts negative, standard stuff. There must be some lovey-dovey between the two. And the electron must jump into the proton and say, I love you. It should disappear into the proton, surely. I'm sorry, I'm lightening up because I prefer to present a very layman's presentation rather than throw you with all this mathematical, lingo. So the electron should just jump into the proton and disappear and the world would have collapsed. The whole of this world would have disappeared. It doesn't do that. And the reason is this little chap called quantum. They can't do it. So the quantum phenomena is not a minor phenomena. It in a way gives you a handle on the whole totality of reality. It's a very, very powerful material, powerful stuff discovered by modern physicists. Now the fun begins. In order for us to get a conceptual, we got the mathematical formalism. We are AAA. The mathematical formalism, perfection. And this is why you get all these gizmos. But when it comes to get a conceptual grasp of what have we found now, none of the physicists have a clue. This is reality. They don't know what the heck have we discovered here, which is so unusual. This quantum fellow, what the heck is it? Very weird chap. What is it all about? What is it? What is it? And this is what they discovered. Again, I'm presenting to you the teachings of the fathers of the quantum physics, Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, Erwin Schrödinger. They say, this is very worrying. They say, we thought this world is made of matter and its properties. That's how science has progressed so far. Suddenly we discover that the underpinning to this reality is not material at all. The only thing we can say for certain is not matter, but what it is, we have no clue, but it's not matter. This is the confirmation. This is the Copenhagen interpretation of the quantum. The underpinning to this reality, even though science has progressed for 2,000 years, following the idea of matter and its epiphenomena, and they've done tremendously well. It's been a durable exercise. And yet, as soon as we hit the quantum in 1920s, suddenly that thing disappears. It's no longer matter and its epiphenomena. It's some kind of qualities of matter that produce the world. No, matter itself, it's a problem. Underpinning to this reality is not material. It's not matter. The lovely language they use is, if you think you can explain this creation in terms of sticks and stones, or smaller versions of sticks and stones, little atoms and electrons, yahoo! They say you're going to fail. We guarantee the underpinning to this reality is non-material. We've got the mathematical structure, but actually the stuff we are talking about is non-material. Then if it's not material, what is it? No idea. And the second question arises, how can something that is mathematically so perfect be flipped into this material world that we encounter? We see the material world, look, I'm standing on matter here. So how did this mathematical creation turn into a material world? They say, okay, we need to introduce some new kind of element. And for the first time in physics, we hear the word. You require a conscious observer for this mathematical reality to become a material world that you encounter. You require a conscious observer. You can't, matter it cannot flip itself from mathematics to matter. This is a big thing. Again, I must touch on it. Most scientists think that when we talk about metaphysics, it is something woolly. To the contrary, metaphysics literally means bigger than physics. And this is, if you like, what we call mathematics, nothing but metaphysics. The whole of our understanding of creation is based on metaphysics. So metaphysics is not a minor thing. It's not some output of human mind. It is something that is underpinning us, allows us to have access to reality. Metaphysics is very serious. It's a very important dimension to our being. And so far it has been ignored, but now quantum says, no, you can't ignore it. I mean, metaphysical phenomena, how did they become material? You sort it out. And we require a conscious, by the way, you require a conscious observer and trouble. You mean to say that unless there is a conscious observer, this material world that you see cannot be in existence? You say, yeah, it's just fuzzy. For it to come into focus, you require a conscious observer. Okay, come on. This is terrible. You are a conscious observer in physics, and physics doesn't like stuff like that. So there's a real problem. So the Copenhagen interpretation struggled and struggled. And yet, it has so far not been sorted out. Even now, today, it has not been sorted out. Now, the moment you say that, conscious observer, we say, okay, what the heck is this consciousness about? Now, forget the quantum chap, he's giving us a headache. What is this thing called consciousness? So, we of course go to the neuroscience lobby. This is not my field, but I like to step into it from time to time. And we say, what the heck is consciousness? Yes, it's very easy, Mr. Lakhani, it's just a brain phenomenon. And straight away, when you present it in that particular format, people like Stephen Hawking take the mickey out of quantum. They say, in that case, what are you trying to say? That unless the frog, is a conscious thing, a frog looks at the moon doesn't come into being. Only when the frog there, the moon appears. That's so ludicrous. What a stupid idea. So the Copenhagen interpretation got really whacked, saying, how dare you bring in a conscious observer? Because consciousness came much later. The universe came about 13 billion years ago. There were no conscious observers, no frogs, no human. So how did the world come into being if you say you require some conscious observer for the world to come into being? How can you have that? It's nonsense, surely. So this is where it stood. It's really been thrashed. This is the Copenhagen interpretation. And then, just to show you how difficult this issue is even today. But in 2011, there was a conference in Vienna of quantum physicists. About 53 physicists took part. And they did a poll to see 42% believe in the Copenhagen interpretation. Even though they have no clue how it can happen, what is this conscious fellow doing here? 42% still believe that is the right one. But then there's a cop-out that people like Stephen Hawking used to try and get away from this conscious observer. And the cop-out is called the multiverse, or the multiverses, interpretation of quantum. This is the second interpretation. This is Copenhagen interpretation. The other one that they've invented is called multiverse, interpretation. Now what is that? I'll give you and tell you how funny it is. It's more funny than this conscious observer. The multiverse universe idea is as follows. It says, look, as we seem to have such problem with this quantum chap, let us say that every time a quantum event takes place, you don't need an observer. The universe splits itself into a copy of itself. The whole of this creation, all the galaxies, stars, everything splits up, boom, like that. If an electron jumps slightly differently, you don't need a conscious observer to bring it into focus. The whole universe cracks up, becomes a second, duplicates itself. At every infinitesimal moment of time, the universe is breaking into infinite copies of itself. If you accept that, you don't need a conscious observer. Now you say, are they serious? While I'm talking to you, infinite copies of us, all of us, including me, talking slightly, the hair is moving slightly differently, and move differently. See, it sounded, this is the only cop-out they've got. And they're sitting on it. In the particular Vienna conference, they checked out, 42% still like Copenhagen interpretation, 18% still like the multiverse universe. 18% still sitting there, including, I think, Stephen Hawking. Now, you see, this is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in physics. I mean, I've been in physics all my life. Because it's saying, look, chaps, while I'm talking to you, at every, not even in every second, at every infinitesimal moment, the whole universe is cracking up into infinite copies of itself and moving away from each other, different timelines. So how can this be? You see, and they are still living with that. And the challenge that comes from somebody like me is very simple. You've been challenging the conscious observer. My challenge is this. What mechanism is kind of monitoring that the electron has jumped slightly differently? So the whole universe, hello, come on, all crack up. What kind of monitoring facility do you have that in a way says, okay, universe break up because the electron went differently? What have you got? What monitoring person, what mechanism do you have that allows this thing to instantaneously allow the whole of the universe to crack up? Zero, of course, it's ludicrous. It is throwing the towel in. This is called, in English terms, divergence with a vengeance. This is divergence, tremendous. All of sciences has progressed so far by the theory of convergence. We try and explain the creation with the least number of variables. This is how science progressed up to now. Suddenly with this multiverse scenario, you got divergence with a vengeance, infinite copies, all in every infinitesimal moment of time. This is just too much. They are thrown in the towel, basically. As they can't explain the quantum phenomena, they are thrown in the towel. This is the reality. And let me tell you the lovely part that I want to kind of present next. One of the fathers, in fact all the three fathers of quantum physics, Werner Heisenberg, Niels Bohr and Schrödinger, repeatedly said, the only parallel we have, the only resonance we have with this idea of quantum lies with Eastern philosophy. They are very clear about it. And Werner Heisenberg something else. He said, in order for the modern physics to stop being so anemic, kind of dying on its feet, you require a blood transfusion from the East. I think he was talking about me. This is what I'm talking about. I tell you, now I'll give you the depth of what this particular phenomena is all about. You see, this is a very important subject to explore because in a way it removes a very serious misconception in modern physics about how to explain the quantum phenomena. See if you like what I'm going to offer. The tradition that I come from, since very ancient times, said the underpinning to this reality is not matter. It has never been matter. It is something dramatically different. The only way the Indic tradition says underpinning to this reality is not matter, it's the underpinning to this reality, the two words they use, and it's not they are two different things, but there are two different handles we have to understand the underpinning to this reality. And the two words they use are, the Sanskrit terms are asti, bhati, existence, consciousness. It's the underpinning to this reality that appears, becomes manifested as the creation is essentially existence. You say existence? It's a casual word. What do you mean by existence? In the material world, things either exist or don't exist. What is this existence fellow doing here? And consciousness. They said they are central. They are not two different things either. When you look at it in a subjective manner, it becomes consciousness. When you look at it in an objective manner, it becomes existence. Now, why am I bringing it in? This tells you, gives the depth of why quantum is such an important phenomenon. It says this. Really, the world that you see is the world of appearance. It is not real. You say, oh, we are standing on it. This is empirical world, we love it. They say, no. The world that you are so fixated on is a matter of appearance. Appearance is not real. The reason why it appears real is as follows. I'm going to give you a metaphor that I've used. It's a very interesting metaphor. Suppose you have, existences look homogeneous. Either exists or doesn't exist, just homogeneous stuff. Suppose I have a block of jelly, transparent jelly by the way, and I say this is the metaphor for existence and consciousness. And I leave that block in front of you and say look through it. You look through it, it's homogeneous, you see through it, nothing. But then suppose I give it a little whack, the block with a little whack on the side. This is what happens like magic. On the surface of the jelly, you see waves coming. And the waves are coming and interacting with each other, interfering. And suddenly the thing that was invisible becomes very visible. Even though it is nothing but the transparent jelly, when it has a weave, that waves, it starts interacting, interfering, and create, if you like, you can see, it comes alive, you see it. Before it was invisible, and suddenly it becomes very visible. This is what comes from our tradition. It says, my friend, what you see as this so fixed set on this material world is in fact nothing but a shudder in existence. When existence shudders, the universe comes into being. It's a apparent world. And again, as I said, there are two aspects to it, consciousness and existence. And the reason why consciousness appears here, it appears in quantum as well, is as follows. We are saying, you see, when I talk to the, say, neuroscience lobby and say, what is consciousness? They say, we know already. Like we talk to Daniel Dennett, he'll say, oh yeah, I've written books on it. Consciousness, Mr. Lakhani, is nothing but an illusion of the mind. It's an illusion. And then he will do this wonderful slideshow of how when you got two lines and they appear to be bent because the mind kind of plays up. You see this optical illusion. He'll show that to you and say, this is what the mind does. The hardware and the software of the mind are mismatched and produces an illusion of consciousness. It has nothing else. But then my question to him is as follows. That's why I'm recording this. It's a very important challenge. I say, if you say consciousness is an illusion, then everything we are conscious about must be super illusion. So why should we bother with it even? Because the whole realm of reality is in the field of consciousness. If that is illusion, then everything we are aware of is double illusion. Why waste time then? So it's not a good answer. And again, another way they kind of try to fob me off is saying, Mr. Lakhani, come on, grow up. Don't be so woolly and all this airy-fairy stuff. Consciousness is a brain phenomena. We know it, we are monitoring it. When you put anesthetic, which part of the brain begins to start switching off and that destroys your consciousness? We know we've been following it. I said, no, you've not been following it. This is nothing but a brain phenomena. A fuzz in the brain, chemical and electronic activity in the brain produces consciousness. Nothing more, Mr. Lakhani, grow up. Stop all this, woolly stuff. I said, no, there's something special here. And the example I use, just like I use the example of that block of jelly, the other example I use is this. A youngster comes into this room and starts playing with the dimmer switch. He turns it one way and the switch, when the light comes on, he turns the other way, the light goes off. Straight away the little child will come to the conclusion that the switch is producing electricity and light. You can't blame him, can you? The cause and effect. Straightforward. And he will believe that. I said, this is exactly your problem. What you are doing with the brain is a mere conduit of consciousness. It doesn't produce consciousness. It doesn't come out of any slice of the brain. You require this very complex phenomena called the material phenomena, which allows consciousness. It's like the switch. It's a conduit. So you're just messing around with the switch, saying, oh, here it comes in, here it goes out. You're not produce consciousness. The switch doesn't produce light. In the same way, the brain, the physical brain, does not produce consciousness. There's something dramatically different about consciousness. We've been telling you since ages. Underpinning to this reality, asti, ati, is of the nature of existence, nature of consciousness. So they become revealed, if you like. In the quantum phenomena, I'll show you how it becomes revealed. When I say the world that we are so sure about is a world of appearance, you may think, come on, this is, we can always kind of counter our appearances and overcome any illusion we might have or any optical illusion we may have. Surely we can overcome it. I'll show you how dramatic it is. This is the heart of quantum physics. This one simple experiment is considered to be the foundation of quantum. Let me give you the experiment and you see why it will make your hair stand up. Or fall out in my case. This is for the two-slit experiment. I won't give you the severe physics, but I'll give you the basics. Suppose you have a beam of light going through two slits, and they go through, and they go on a screen. And you go, yeah, physicists, we like to observe stuff like that. Okay, fair enough, calm down. Now, this is the fun part. They do it actually, they do experiment. When the light beam has passed through, instead of two slits, suppose you close one slit down, instantly, not at the speed of light, instantly, the light that's come through says, I will behave differently now. And changes its color. Straight away changes its mood, its mannerism. So just after it has, look, this is the part that's making the scientist really kind of very, very nervous. After it has gone through it, you close one, how does this beam of light know? It happens instantly, it changes color, changes its mannerism. Why? How? If it was real material, it cannot do it. There is no way it can learn about it and do this. It does it because it is an appearance. Appearance can change like that. This is the heart of quantum. This is the heart of the Hindu tradition. It says, underpinning is very genuine, but it is not material. The material world that you are fixated on is a secondary phenomena. The primary phenomena is something dramatically different. And this is where we sit at the moment. So when I present this idea of saying, look, let us focus not on the secondary, on the primary. Because this is where we are struggling in modern physics. And I tell you, even my own professor, Sir Roger Penrose, struggling with this idea, is this. They are so fixated on trying to explain everything, including Einstein had a big problem with quantum. In order for us to grasp reality, you must hang on to matter and its epiphenomena, its attributes. Oh, here is electrons got a charge and a mass and a spin, and oh, so clever. So we are fixated on trying to reduce everything to matter and its epiphenomena, including Einstein. He was struggling with that. And suddenly they said, no, this matter that you're so comfortable, it's just going to feel, it's just not there. It's an appearance. So why should I build my world on appearance and just think that I can explain everything away, including the human mind, the consciousness that we possess, in terms of matter, in terms of the brain phenomena? Why should I do that? Why should I use a secondary phenomena to give understanding of this reality when I got the primary phenomena to look at? And again, I show you the power of this teaching. If you ask a quantum physicist, how do what is the mathematical description of your quantum reality? He said, Mr. Lakhani, it's called the psi function. I won't bore you with that. So what does it physically mean? What's the physical interpretation of the mathematical formula? And they say, it tells us what is the probability of existence. That's what it does. Probability of existence is the mathematical foundation of quantum. And you see what the word appears suddenly? Existence. So the word that the homogeneous existence, there is no appearance. But when it gets whacked, because it starts sending waves, there's a variation. You see, how can you possibly have a variation in existence? And that's what quantum is doing. A variation in existence is what the quantum formula. The whole of it is based on that. So again we find, if you like, tremendous resonance with this very ancient teaching of the Indic tradition. You know how we are going to resolve it? This is how it's going to be resolved. It is necessary for science now to recognize the material world as a secondary phenomena and a primary phenomena which is non-material. It has been given proper kind of acceptance and dignified. So it's not just a mathematical thing that kind of just comes out of the mind or the brain or the physical thing. It has got its own kind of entity. It's a real entity. Give it the full dignity and full importance. Then turn the table. So it's not that metaphysics comes out of physics. Physics can only be understood, or if you like, appears in the realm of metaphysics. So this is where we stand. And this is where the idea of consciousness sits. So I'm suggesting one other thing, and this deliberately I'm recording and putting it on YouTube, deliberately to challenge the physicists. Because I like to challenge Daniel Dennett, I like to challenge Stephen Hawking. The reason is very simple, including my own teacher, Sir Roger Penrose. I tell you why. Sir Roger Penrose has written books and books on quantum and consciousness. He somehow is in the right direction. You know, they are linked somehow. So he's written books and books on it, and yet he's not able to sort it out. Do you know why? He's still fixated on matter. He can't come out of the material box. Literally, he can't get out of the box. Think outside the box. He can't do it. He's stuck in the box. I'll give you how. The books he writes, he says, consciousness is very likely something which is a quantum phenomena that takes place, where it becomes? In the microtubules of your neuron cells in your brain. In tiny neuron cells, and they have a little skeleton called microtubules, and inside is some kind of quantum phenomena, and that's how consciousness, quantum are connected. See what he's trying to do? Just like with some toothpaste, where you can't get the final bit out, you press it and he's trying to get consciousness out of the physical microtubules of your brain. He's squeezing hard. It's not working, by the way. But you see how they are stuck with a very, highly materialistic vision of the universe. First, we need to move away from the very, very stodgy, materialistic vision of the world and accept there is a metaphysical dimension of being which gives us a better handle on reality, give it full dignity, and then when you accept that, you'll be able to, in a way, respond to the idea that why is the world so weird? It's a world of appearance. It doesn't mean that because the matter of appearance, suppose I got pangs of hunger, I say, it's just appearance, I'll die. So I still have to play by the rules of the apparent world, and yet it is still appearance. This is very important for us to recognize. Why? Because the world, the total world that we come across, and I'm sure my colleague is going to talk on it, is so fixated on matter and material gains and material possession and property that the world, can't you see it is going wild, chasing after material gains. It is so fixated on matter. So when somebody is, kind of, the skin is sagging, it must go plastic surgery, lift it. This is me. This is not you. And the winning to you. In fact, I must just finish with this one. I think I should, otherwise I'll go on forever. Madonna has sung a very nice lyric. It says, I'm a material girl in a material universe. And Stephen Hawking and Richard Dawkins are very much part of this phenomena. They can't see themselves anything more than a material being in a material world. After this discovery of quantum and consciousness, I'm saying it is necessary for her to sing another melody, which will go, I'm a spiritual girl caught in a material journey. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you so much, Jay. And just a reminder, or for those of you that arrived late, we'll have a question and answer session. So please make note of any questions that you have from Mr. Lakhani that you can bring up at the end, and we'll try and get all of those answered. Fascinating talk. Thank you so much. So I'm thrilled now to introduce our next speaker. So Dr. Seyed Azmayesh is a researcher, author, and a double doctorate holder in the fields of theology and comparative science of Islam and Christianity. He's a juristic scholar with over 40 years of experience as an expert on the Quran. He's known for his extensive research in the fields of Islam, Gnosticism, and Christianity, and also for his advocacy for human rights. So I'm very thrilled now to hand over to Dr. Azmayesh.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to be here tonight to listen to my short lecture about the model of the universe according to the Quran. So I wrote my lecture in order to be short in time, and it corresponds with some verses of the Quran which were projected here that you can read by yourself. In order to be short really in time, to have enough time for the question and answers. I start with the world vision according to the Greco-Roman Iranian philosophers since 2000 years ago. So, as you know, they were believing to the universe as composed of the earth and the sky. In their mind, the earth was situated in the center of the universe, and the sky and everything inside of the sky was supposed to turn around the earth. So this model was introduced by a philosopher whose name was Ptolemy. Ptolemy was living 100 years AD. So he was thinking, and he did this reasoning about the universe, why the earth is situated in the center of the universe. Because he was thinking that everything which falls down from the sky goes directly to the surface of the earth, and if there is a valley, it goes to the valley. It means that in his mind it was a tendency in each being to go to the center of the earth. So by this, he understood that the earth should be situated and positioned in the center of the universe. That attracts everything to its center. So, according to him, the universe, the sky, is like a roof for the whole universe. On its ceiling there are a lot of shining points, and between them there are 12 ones who are considered as the houses of the moving masses, cosmical mass, such as Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. In his mind, the creator of the universe created by this manner the universe, the earth in the center of the universe, and here, as you see, it is an illustration of the stained glass window in the Cathedral of Chartres in France. So hereby you see God is creating the universe. In the middle is the center, in the center is the earth, and around it he is preparing the plan for making the sky. And it is God as an architect for creating the whole universe. So this model of the universe rested in the mind of everybody for many centuries, till 15th centuries and the period of Renaissance. For the first time in 15th century, Copernicus made a revolutionary discovery about the sky, about everything. And he broke down totally this image, this false image, which lasted in the mind of people for 15 centuries. After Copernicus, it was Johannes Kepler, as you know, he invented the first primitive telescope, and he looked at the sky, and he discovered another reality of the sky, of the universe. And after him, in 17th century, it was Galilei who exposed the ensemble of all of this mathematical calculus and evaluation of the universe, of the cosmic mass, and he was condemned to be burned by the church because the official church didn't accept this reasoning. Why? Because this model of the universe was totally integrated inside of the belief of the clerical power in the Christian world. But from other side, since 8th century AD, after the apparition of the Islamic empires, Umayyad and Abbasid, this philosophical model of the universe was imported from the Christian world to the Islamic territories. The book of Ptolemy was named Majestic Mathematica. So the first thing that they did was the translation of this book, and they named Al-Majesty. It is in reality that the commentator of the Quran made from the theory of Ptolemy the general foundation of the Muslim world vision. Therefore, in all of the religious schools in the entire Muslim territory, including Africa, Asia, from the border of China to the cities of Europe, such as Seville and Cordoba in Andalusia, Palermo in Italy, etc., Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, until the end of the first half of 20th century, this model of the universe remained in the mind of every Muslim person. It means that even in the 20th century, the commentator of the Quran went on with the old-fashioned Ptolemaic model of the universe, because this model was supported by many sayings. Sayings mean rewayat, and rewayat are the sayings which are fabricated by mutakallimin. It means the clerical power is in Islamic era. hierarchy. So they invented a lot of sayings and attributed all of these sayings to the companion of Prophet Muhammad in order to bring insight of the interpretations of the Quranic verses this model of universe. So it means that they didn't pay attention at all to what was written in the Quran, in the verses of the Quran. They would like all the time to justify that this model of the universe introduced by Ptolemy corresponds absolutely with the sayings attributed to the companion of Prophet. They were defending this model of the universe. But in reality, if you look at the verses of the Quran doesn't give any central place to the earth. In the model of the Quran of the universe, the earth is a planet such as every other cosmic mass. And it is very important. Why? I will explain. So in one of the very fantastic tales, Muslim tales, a Muslim reporter called Ibn Husham in the 2nd and 3rd century after Hijrah is talking about the nocturnal journey of Prophet Muhammad to the sky in order to visit Allah's kingdom. So it is said by Ibn Husham that one night, Prophet Muhammad was sleeping in his own house and somebody knocked at his door. He opened and it was Archangel Gabriel in company of a spacecraft. So what was this spacecraft? It was a winged donkey. So he asked Prophet Muhammad to take place on that donkey, and it opened its wing and it became a flying winged donkey. And it went to the sky, so far, sky by the sky. Because the skies were considered as 7 wands. And in each sky, he met a lot of prophets and etc. The Prophet Muhammad talked with all of them, etc. And in the middle of way, so Gabriel stopped the donkey and told him, go further more gradually to the final destination. I can no longer come with you by the risk to be burnt by the divine light. So in the mind of Ibn Husham, who fabricated this tale, this donkey was more resistant than Archangel Gabriel in front of the divine light. So it was this model of the 7 layers of the sky and the nocturnal travel of Prophet Muhammad to the kingdom of God, passing through hell and heaven and visit everything in its place. So, of course, when you read all of this, you say, but all of these are full of superstition. It doesn't correspond with any reality. And you think, because it is said as the commentary and interpretation of the holy text of the Quran, you think that the Quran is full of superstition. And you would like to reject all of this. But it has nothing to do with the Quran. All of these are absent absolutely in the logic of the holy text. This is very important. So how to do now? It means it is necessary now, under the light of the new research, the new discoveries, the new scientific discoveries, to better understand by looking deeply and studying deeply the verses of the Quran, how the Quran does modelize the universe. This is a very important project for this time. As you know, the Quran is old of 15 centuries. The oldest example of the Quran is the example of Birmingham and it is supposed to be written in the life period of Prophet Muhammad. It means before his death, before 632 AD. And in this Quran that we have, the oldest example of the Quran, it is exactly like the Quran that you can buy on the shelf of early Quran. So it is absolutely the same thing, it is authentic, it didn't change. Any verse of the Quran never changed, it is absolutely the same. It is preserved and protected. You read sentence by sentence and verse by verse, and you never find any trace of the particular place of the earth in the universe. So the Quran is composed of 310 verses about the sky. The Quran poses this question: why you don't look at the sky upon your head? So it means that the Quran would like to change the paradigm, to change the orientation of the attention of the people from the grass under their feet to the stars upon their head. And it is important. In the Quran, we read that the universe is composed of two sides, visible side and invisible side. Visible side is named Shahadat, and invisible side is unseen, no perceivable side of the universe. Ghaib, al-Ghaib. And all in all, it is composed of different layers. The first layer of the sky is named Jawwus Sama. Jaw means atmosphere. And the particularity of Jawwus Sama is that it is a place in which the birds are flying, the clouds are moving from one side to another side, the rain is coming, the lightning, the thunders, etc., etc. This is Jawwus Sama, the atmosphere, with all of the atmospheric phenomena. And the second layer of the space, of the sky, is As-Sama'u Dunya. Dunya means the material world, means this world which is composed of different components. And Sama means sky. It corresponds with the solar system because in which the Quran is talking about the movement of the moon in a circular form around the earth, and the stable place of sun in the middle of the system which is turning around itself. It is not up to the sun to attract the moon and not to moon to collapse on the earth. Everything, this cosmic mechanic is explained in the Quran. And the third layer of the sky, according to the Quran, is in form of an enormous bubble. Enormous bubble. And this is very important because in this bubble there are the opposite forces which are acting against each other. One force is pushing from each side the space to get bigger and bigger. The expansion of the universe. And from other side there is another force which acts to preserve the borders of this bubble. So this bubble includes everything. It means in new world, all of the galaxies, of all of the cosmic masses, etc., etc. The Quran is talking about Kawkab. Kawkab is a family of stars, which is composed not out of solid matter, such as the planet, but it is light on light. It is photon on photon, and it is named Kawkab. The Quran is talking about time and place, makan and zaman, as the component of the whole three-dimensional universe. So the fourth layer of the sky, according to the Quran, is al-ghayb, which is composed of no perceivable substance which is propagated in the whole endless space. It exists, and in the new jargon of the science, it is named dark matter and dark energy. That exists, but it is not perceivable. It is not dark because it is black. It is dark, it is named dark because it is not perceivable. And in the Quran, it is named ghayb. It is this strange, no perceivable substance propagated in the endless space. So, this bubble of the three-dimensional world is like a drop of water compared to the ocean of no perceivable dark matter and dark energy, according to the Quran. Another particularity of the sky, according to the Quran, is as-sama'u zatul buruj. It is talking about buruj. What does it mean? What is the meaning of buruj and buruj? Buruj means a tall building. Tall building is the description of buruj. For example, in the Old Testament, it is talking about the Babylonian tower. It is Burj Babel. So, when it is talking about the Burj, it is not just a tall phenomenon or tall thing, but it is the heart of the civilization. For example, the ziggurat which was placed in Shush in Mesopotamia, etc., composed of 7 floors. It is named Burj. So, traveling from land to land on the earth in order to visit the traces of the former civilization and to know about them. So it is natural. But the Quran is talking about civilization in the space. وَالسَّمَاءُ ذَاتُ الْبُرُوجِ. This is very important point. How it is possible? Because according to the Quran, life is not a phenomenon exclusively owned to the earth. The Quran relates life to the water. وَمِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Everywhere, wherever, in the whole universe, you find the trace of water, you find the trace of living beings. It is written black and white on the Quran. So, living being according to the jargon of the Quran is named Dabbeh. So the Quran is talking about terrestrial Dabbeh, terrestrial living beings, and extraterrestrial living beings. And the particularity of the extraterrestrial living beings is that they are traveling from their planet to our planet. They come and they go. They come and they go constantly. Not in order to visit, but to accomplish the mission. It is what is written in the Quran. So you see totally the explanation of the Quran about the universe is totally different with what is said in the Revayat, in the sayings, in the commentary of the Quran, in the interpretation of the Quran, which were done by the clerical power in Islam. So a living being, according to the Quran, is composed of a body, which is named Jez, and a vital energy, which is named Jan, and the conscience for each living being, which is named Nafs al-Natiqah, or the breath of the creator of the universe. And the living beings are composed of different categories, who are living in the water, as the fishes, or moving on their belly, or walking on 4 feet, or walking on 2 feet, etc., etc. And they are terrestrial, and extraterrestrial. In the Quran, you see that not only they come and they return back to their original land, but from time to time they bring people with them. The Quran explains the case of Elijah, the case of Jesus, the case of Abraham, and a lot of other people who didn't die on the earth, but they went elsewhere. Why? So according to the Quran, the continents are in the number of 7. The extraterrestrial land is named 8 climate, 8 continents. It is the extension of the 7 ones. It is in the Greek jargon extraterrestrial, or 8 climate, according to Holy Quran. So, it is very short, my exposé. I am in the end of my exposé, but it was just to say that everything that I told you is extracted from the Quran. It is written in the Quran. And under the light of the new scientific research, we can understand better what is written in the Quran. For 15 centuries, all of these were in a forgotten place, because people were too much attached to the Ptolemaic model of the universe. Now, the reality, we discovered that the reality is totally different. Thank you very much for your patience.
Okay, I'm Andrew Stone. I just wanted to add something. We've heard from the East and from the Quran. I happen to be Jewish. I'm not an academic, and I'm not that knowledgeable. But I just wanted to add, in terms of existence and consciousness, that the word for God in Judaism is 4 letters: Yud, He, Vav, He. If you try to say it, it would be Yahweh or Jehovah. But in fact, it's the root of the verb to be. It's isness, it's existence. And the central prayer of Judaism is, listen, existence, this thing, is God. And this existence is oneness. And that it's an illusion to think anything of it. So that you should remember this oneness with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Think about it when you walk by the wayside, teach it to your children, put it as a sign on the door. So what is being confirmed here is that, in fact, all this science and everything is nonsense. There is existence, and there is consciousness, and that this is an illusion. And if you live constantly knowing that, then you'll realize everything is one, you'll love everybody, and you'll behave properly, and you won't destroy the planet. So it's really interesting that you've got East-West Command and Judaism all saying the same thing.
So I can thank you very much for your commentary that the Quran is absolutely in the continuity of the explanation of Torah, of the Bible, absolutely. And in order to discover the reality of the Quran, it is necessary to do a very deep study about. So the Quran is talking about the absolute, limitless, endless, without any condition of existence, which is God. And this is the principle of unity of existence between creator and creatures, and etc.
You see, I'm dubbed in the system as an evangelical pluralist. It's like contradiction in terms. Because I'm saying that it's so crucial for us to explore, go to the depth of every tradition, every mystic tradition, every religion. When you go to the depth, at experiential level, where the fountainhead of all religions come out, we see tremendous reconciliation. The language may be different, the wording may be different, the presentation may be different, the interpretation may be even more different. At the experiential level, at the depth, we meet up very well.
Any more questions? Yes, at the back there. If you want to stand up here, thank you.
Yeah, so you said that the principle is that there is no separation between the creator and the created. Is this come from directly from reading the Quran?
Yes, it is written in the Quran. Yes.
And I'm just going to question. Is this also reflected by the latest findings in the quantum physics, that there is no separation between the creator and the created?
So it is the question.
Yes. You see, in the world of appearance, the first distinction that we see is the distinction of subject and object. This is the first thing we see. When you have the world of appearance, in order for us to experience the world that we see around us, you must have this first division, subject and object. So the first part, when the appearance begins, when things start shuddering, the first thing happens is produces subject and object. Somebody looking, if you like, a subject, consciousness looking at existence. So it is quite true that at the deeper level, this distinction disappears. There is no distinction between subject and object. It is only again, where does it come? At the experiential level. And I am suggesting every mystic, every prophet of every tradition actually experience this oneness. With this oneness so dramatic, once you experience it, you don't only feel one with the whole creation, you feel tremendous love for whole creation, including all of the living kingdom. Tremendous love. Look at the lives of every prophet. They would give their lives for anybody, happily, because they were in love with humanity. They saw themselves reflected in other human beings. So this idea of me, ego, me, disappears, wiped away.
So it means that according to Ibn Arabi, one of the most important personality in Sufism and in Islamic spirituality, it is the principle of unity and oneness, which is very important principle of the apparition of the bubbles and the drops out of the ocean and inside of the ocean at the same time. So a drop of water is the ocean at the same time. And you can see the ocean inside of a drop of water. There is no duality between drop of water and ocean. And in the level of the conscience, conscience in the French language, so it exists just one consciousness and not two ones. And every little single being is just like a mirror in front of one sun. Milliard mirrors are reflecting one sun, one soul. This is the principle of unity. It means that each entity is composed of an identity and an existence. The existence is absolute and limitless. There is one existence. And this existence is giving being to each entity. And according to the Quran, the whole universe dies in each fraction of second and returns back to the existence. It is like inhaling and exhaling of the Creator, dying and returning back to resurrection.
The question is to you. You mentioned something about vital energy that was mentioned in the Quran. What was the word that you...
John.
How do you spell it? So...
J-A-N. John, yes.
So
the John, according to the Quran, the John is created from the war. From this energy, yes.
From warmth.
Warmth, yes.
Thank you.
The body is composed of the composition of the material component, and John is emanated from the warmth.
So what do you think the role of the brain could be in this spiritual model of the universe? For instance, Robert Penrose and Hameroff's model with the microtubules, microjoules, do you not think that that might still be a good approach to the reconciliation of materialism and spirituality and the brain and the soul and the interface?
You see, this fixation on matter is becoming very tiresome. This is what I'm saying. Because I'm just telling you, quantum is telling us the material world that you're so sure about is an appearance. If it's just an appearance, why do you want to try and explain everything in terms of material things? So, for example, this big thing, let's kind of lighten up. Here, Mr. Lakhani, consciousness is a brain phenomena, I live with it, and all this nonsense and all this airy-fairy stuff. If he hit you with a hammer, your consciousness will go. He told you it's in your brain. I said, no, it is not. It's like breaking a switch. Electricity will stop. But it doesn't mean stop the flow. It's just that the flow has stopped. You've not touched consciousness. So trying to do something in a field where it doesn't exist, like consciousness, the reason why consciousness will never be captured in any material sense is because it is precisely that. It is not, if you like, part of the apparent world. It is very much the underpinning to reality, so it cannot be captured, others will put it in jars and sell it in Sainsbury's. So it always stay like that. It is not the weakness. People think when you talk about this stuff like consciousness, we can't kind of grab it properly. There seems to be weakness. It's not its weakness, it's strength. It's very strength. Because if it was possible, because every time you try and explain consciousness, think about it. Look, it's so simple. You'll only be able to give me an answer about what you are conscious about, your brain, not consciousness itself. Every time you try, you'll only tell me what you are conscious about rather than what is consciousness. It always will defy. Same with existence. You cannot try and encapsulate it. Existence, how do you encapsulate it? How do you capture it? So the deeper vision that comes out of spirituality cannot be in a way transferred into a very material frame, saying let us carry on doing research on the microtubules of your brain. It's not going to produce consciousness at all, I guarantee that. If it does, then everything I've said is worthless. The idea of spiritual is dead. In fact, look, this is the important thing. When you have human beings, like the British Humanist Association, say that Mr. Lakhani, humans are so important, we focus on humanity. I say, wonderful, I do the same. But there's a big problem. You are telling me I'm nothing but accidents of evolution that has produced me. I'm nothing more than accidents of evolution. There's nothing more to me. I'm just a lump of carbon that got wound up like this. You are telling me this is dignifying me? Lump of carbon? This is not dignifying. So I said, move from this highly stodgy materialistic humanism to this idea of spiritual humanism. You are more than matter. You require the material frame to manifest yourself, your true nature, and yet you are not, if you like, part of, if you like, the output of matter.
So you wouldn't say that it's an explanation for spirituality is actually not consistent at all?
No, it is not. It will not. It will not. It is impossible. The thing is, it's in a different field, it's a different realm, and it cannot, in a way. That's why the apparent realm cannot reflect it. Dr. Seyed said something very nice. He said, you got a drop and you got the ocean, essentially the same, and yet they are kind of linked up at the deeper level. The same way, consciousness is, if you like, part of the greater consciousness, and consciousness is always singular, never plural. The apparent world we see with all different people being conscious, different living things being conscious, is like appearance. It is consciousness itself, one singular, appeared as scattered as all the living things.
So, according to the Quran, it is written in the verse of the Quran that God brought you out of the womb of your mother, where you didn't want, where you didn't know anything. And He gave you ears, eyes, 5 senses in order to get information about the outer world. So the brain is just an instrument in order to make a conclusion, to link all of this information to each other. But more than this, it is written in the Quran that He gave you more than the five senses in order to get by the sensorial perception information about the optical, the heart. In order to get information about the inner side of the universe, about unseen, about no perceivable sensory touching, information about unseen side of the universe, of the reality. So you have heart and you have five senses. So you get all of this information and you give them to this instrument which is named lobe. Lobe means brain. And lobe makes them with each other and extract the conclusion. So this is the relationship between heart, five senses, and brain, according to the Quran. Yes.
If we assume this illusory fundamental nature of reality, the non-material fundamental nature of reality, and that the appearances are an illusion, what, in your opinion, is the purpose of the multitude of forms that we seem to perceive through the sensory organs and through sensory experience?
Before I answer this very important question, I'll just say one thing very interesting. It is through the integrity of modern science. Look, I come from the science lobby and I have tremendous love of science. It is through the integrity of science we are getting a deeper glimpse into the nature of reality. This is the first thing that hits us. Through consciousness, through the idea of quantum, we are now seeing a deeper reality. And surely if it doesn't give you a thrill, what else will give you a thrill? You know, this is a thrill of the lifetime. There's something great about us, about this creation, that is manifesting in this apparent manner, in a very kind of crude and jagged manner, but underpinning is something dramatic. So the question, going back to your question. You see, what is the purpose, you say, but why should you see, the thing is this. Once we are human, and we try and grasp reality, we use all these things, where, when, how, why, in order to grasp reality. But I told you, all these things are in the apparent world. So the totality doesn't have to play ball with that. It's only in the apparent world you can ask question why. But these fundamental things they don't ask even. You are just in a part of the apparent world, so don't ask why even. So I'm not trying to fob it off. I'm simply saying it will remain unanswerable, not because it is weak, but because the ideas of why, when, etc. is very much part of the apparent world and not in the primary, the phenomena. That's why the why question can never be, not because we are running away from it, it will defy, because it is, if you like, output of this apparent world, so it can never be answered. The primary will not respond to you, saying, go away.
So according to the Quran, the relationship between unity and diversity is the relationship which exists between substance and form.
This question for you. If we say that the drop is part of the ocean, as much as the ocean is part of the drop, does that then mean that as far as souls are concerned, the soul is part of the consciousness and vice versa? Or do you believe that the soul, we all have an individual soul? Or does that follow the same?
Yes, it means that here we have a quantity of water here, and if we put this water in different cups, it is the same water, it is one water, it's the one oneness, and these are the different bodies with the same substance in all of them. So by the plurality of the cups doesn't match with the substance, this is just one substance. And this substance is conscious about itself, and it names itself me, I. When it is divided in different cups, each cup says I. It is the same substance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks very much for this talk, by the way. I think it was very interesting and learned a lot. Just have a quick question about the Holy Scriptures, the Torah, the Bible, and Quran. In your opinion, is there, to what extent is there a reference about the upcoming of Prophet Muhammad and the Quran within Torah and Bible? Do Torah and Bible mention the upcoming of this new religion and through Prophet Muhammad?
So, what you mean, religion can be considered as a dogma, a theological dogma. But people that we consider as the prophets, they are the spiritual teachers in reality. They didn't come to bring different religion in order to divide people. It is the man that the theologian created the dogma and attributed to the spiritual teachers. It's the reality is totally vice.
Sorry, the last thing was a statement, this is a question. The reason I said I'm not academic is that I was dyslexic when I was from school, and I can't think in a logical, linguistic way. But that gives me an advantage because I can only think holistically, and it's difficult for me then to explain things in words. It seems to me that there is this wholeness, and that if you try and divide it in mathematics, or you divide it in words, then in that case it can't be said. In fact, all of the ancient wisdoms say you can't say it. The Tao, that is the Tao, can't be said. So, should we be trying to invent some other way of communicating amongst each other from that higher consciousness that is not in words, so that, in fact, humans can come together and all understand that we all agree, it's just that the words get in the way?
Very good question. Sorry, I'm rushing to answer. Such a good question. You see, this is the claim. This is the claim from this Hindu, and this is the claim of Hinduism, in fact. He said, the experiential level, every prophet, every mystic hit the same jackpot. And they called it a transcendent experience. No words can capture it. Oh, it's so wow. Okay, calm down. But then the problem arises. They say no word can express it, and then they try and give words to their experience, every one of them. Right. Not because they are cheaters, simply because they love humanity. Yeah. They want to share their experience with the greater humanity. They can't help themselves. So they'll try and articulate some verbal way of transmitting this experience. Now you see, because they're nasty, no, they're good people. They're trying to infuse spirituality in the society, greater society. They want to plug it in. Now the problem is this, not the problem, but the issue is this. Every prophet in different geographic period, geographic location, different historic period, would have different mindset and different language, linguistic flow. So every prophet, when they try to give expression, their expression will necessarily reflect the mindset that they possess in the world they interact with in the society. It cannot be otherwise, it can't be given in blank. So when Buddha sits in the Bodhi tree, says, I'm enlightened, good for you. See, this is the language he uses. So this is the way different prophets in a way are giving expression, but the mindset they possess in a way kicks in and colors their expression. So the language you say in a way colors it, and in a way produces division or a kind of divisive way. So this is the beautiful way. One other thing I must really comment. So far so good, we have explained why there are so many different religions and all the prophets are nice chaps. But then the theologians get in. Sorry, I'm trying to excuse me. They want to try and give, if you like, interpretation. They try and build. Their intentions are good. They want to protect the fledgling plant of spirituality that the prophet is talking about. They want to protect it. So they build little kind of ways of holding it together. And that process of holding together is very positive, because otherwise you won't even have heard of these prophets. And yet, they become divisive because they're using their own kind of particular kind of doctrines and dogmas, and we have no problem. So this is how the world operates. But should we look, one thing that comes out of this tradition is this, that my friend, nice to kind of bow down to a prophet. He says a very challenging thing, said, become a prophet. It's too much. Oh no, become a prophet. The reason is this, the thing that's within you, this thing we call consciousness, this expression of the spirit. Allow it to flow through. Don't be mean to yourself. No, I can't be so much. Work on it. You are the spark of the divine. The thing that's flowing through is essentially spirit. We talk about it. Consciousness is the name of God. It's flowing through you. Give it greater expression. And become, rather than, sorry for this horrible thing, rather than bow down to prophet, become a prophet. You say, oh, it's too much, Mr. Lakhani, come on, leave us alone.
You think the human being will be mature enough very soon to start believing in pluralism and trying to accept each other and respect their views instead of having difference of opinions and conflicts in the world?
I hope so.
Yeah. In fact, look, when I heard this particular agenda and I looked at the background of the other speaker, I was very impressed. You see what he's trying to do? Human rights, dignifying humanity. Hopefully not as a material being, not like Madonna, but as a spiritual being, dignified, the living God in front of you. So when I saw this agenda, I said, I want to participate. Thank you.
I think we have time maybe for one more, if it's a quick one. At the back, yeah.
Yes, as Dr. Azmayesh briefly touched upon in his remarks, many Quranic scholars, in particular Ibn Khaldun, spoke about how through both faith and through reason, taking a logical extrapolation of Quranic teachings, you arrive at the same conclusion, and in many ways they anticipated modern scientific theories about the expansion of the universe, as you discussed. So many of his critics would say that actually, what he theorized was contrary to Quranic teachings. So, to what extent would you say that this is valid?
So, what I explained to you, it is written absolutely in the Quran. So, it is written that إِنَّا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَمُوسِعُونَ, that we created the whole universe and we are expanding it. So it is written absolutely. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to enter in this large subject and explain as far as possible. But under the shadow of the new discoveries, we can better understand the real meaning of the sentences. Thank you very much.
Well, sadly, we've come to the end, but I really want to say a very big thank you to both of our speakers for taking the time and sharing their wisdom and insights, and to all of you for making the time to come and take part in what's quite frankly an essential and fascinating conversation. So thank you to you.